What if I told you that Bugonia is basically a remake of a early 2000s Korean film and inspired by a mix of Misery from Stephen King and an internet conspiracy involving Leonardo DiCaprio? Don't let the cover of this film fool you. Welcome to another episode of Revival Flicks, where we try to find some classic films, old films, and view them again with today's lenses, and maybe we give another value for them, right? With the updated, our updated culture of dealing with media and so on. But this channel actually is not only dedicated to like classic or old films. This one, for example, I don't consider it that old. I mean, 2003, right? But also I'm into weird films or maybe even releases, new releases. Like recently I reviewed The Odyssey since it's like so hyped up, and I'm also like a big Chris Nolan fans. But anyway, let's talk about this one. So the film that I'm going to review today, it's called Save the Green Planet. Save the Green Planet, released in 2003. It's a South Korean production, and it's a very low budget film, 3 million. And unfortunately, I'm going to talk about more about this later. But unfortunately, it was kind of like a flop in the theaters. So it's not clear exactly. Like my main source for gathering information and so on is IMDb. This channel is not is not anyway sponsored by IMDb and so on, but it is a very good source of information related to films and filmography and whatever. So it's not clear how much it really did as revenue. It states like maybe 15,000 worldwide, but in Korea actually it doesn't state there in Korea. So I asked like the GPT like to make a quick estimate based on how many tickets were sold and like the currency at the time or whatever. It's around $430,000. So it's basically probably under $500,000. So it costed 3 million and did only about $500,000. So it's considered a huge flop. But the film is amazing, and I'm gonna discuss in details about it. But before that, let's talk about the crew. Basically, just a very quick note about the crew. Of course, I don't know any of them, not the director, not the actors and so on. So I'm just going to superficially, mention them. So the director and writer, Jang Joon-hwan, maybe it's like that is pronounced. Probably not sure. Also, the original name from the film. Also, I'm gonna butcher this, but let's try it. So Yiguriel or Yiguril Yikeora. Man, that was terrible. But if anyone is from South Korea, please write in the correct pronunciation of it. Anyway, the interesting part of this director, it's that he actually participated in the production from Bugonia. So it's a remake, but it's not as if Hollywood like stole something or whatever. It actually contracted the original creators, like to really recreate the film, but of course in Hollywood style production, right? So I was also reading further about this. He was actually intended to be the director for this film. Not only, I think at this point he's like only he was only contracted like for the writing, because the original story is from him. And I think maybe he also participated in the production, but he was also meant to be the director of this film. I think the only reason that it didn't work out, I think some kind of sickness at the time or something like that. But anyway, that was very interesting actually. So, looking at his filmography in IMDb, it's actually very short, his list of films, but they're all very well rated. I was surprised with that. He has maybe under 10 films, but I separated a couple of films that I may watch. One is I'm going to watch for sure, which is 1987, When the Day Comes, which is from 2017, rated as 7.7. But there was also another one that was mentioned there, which is Hai. Of course, that's not how you pronounce it, but anyway, A Monster Boy. 2013, 7.8. Another curious fact about the director: it seems that he went to the same movie film academy, as as Bong Joon-ho, which is the director from Parasite. I watched that one actually, and it's a very, very good movie. Very, very good movie. Totally recommended. Yeah, I thought that was curious. And they even worked together, like in some film academy, like project or whatever, shorts and so on. I didn't get into that much detail there, but anyway, there was some history there. And also the actors. So we have basically, I would say, 4 actors that really stood out in the film, which is, I'm going to say all of their names, but it's probably not how you pronounce it. So Shin, Ha-kyun, which is the main character. Then we have Baek, Yoon-sik, which is also a very important role there. Then we had Jung-min and Lee Ya-young. So the first one, Shin Ha-young or Shi Ha-kyun, right? So I took a brief look at his filmography. He has a very extensive list of films, and I must say, very highly rated, and TV series also. I would say that these two, Shi Ha-kyun and Baek Yoon-sik, are the highlights of the film. But now let's go to the fun part and start a review about the film itself. And reminding, this doesn't contain any spoilers, but there will be a section with spoilers, which is I normally reserve to the end, and I'll be very explicit about it. Don't worry. So you'll have plenty of time, to drop off if you need to. And I hate spoilers. That's why I don't do them as, like a default. But yeah, let's get into it. So one of the main reasons that I love doing this podcast is that sometimes I get a chance, to watch films that I would never stumble upon, done by research or something of a kind. And often, I would say more often than not, I'm going to stumble into a hidden gem, a missed movie or something that really surprises me. And this, I must say, this is the occasion, So this happened to me already a couple of times in the past. So one of the films that I went totally low expectations and so on was a film called Happy End, which is also in my channel. And so basically how I stumbled upon that film was doing a review about a film called Irreversible, which is a Spanish production. So surprisingly, also, this is one of the of the highest of the videos with the highest view in my channel. But it has a backwards narrative, right? It has a script that is done backwards, right? The storytelling. So I went into research, what were the first films that were done that way. So in the LLM, right, in the GPT research, it actually pointed me out to a film called Happy End from 1967. And it's actually a film from Czechoslovakia, which doesn't even exist anymore. So now it's the Czech Republic. And it was one of the best films that I watched last year. So it was really, really surprising. It was really highly technical technically advanced, and the planning in that film is so amazing, because it's not like the traditional reverse storytelling. It's something else. You gotta watch this film if you're into those a very different kind of storytelling. But anyway, so this is also a case where I went with totally low expectations and watched a phenomenal film. So I need to anticipate that already. So the reason why I actually put this on my list is because when I was reviewing Bugonia, so I'm going to also leave as a suggested video in the end of this one, the review from Bugonia. Anyway, I was, gathering information, researching, about what I was gonna mention, in the review and whatever, and then I found out, like very surprisingly, that it was a remake of a Korean film from 2003. So that got me wondering a couple of things actually. One of them is like, why was this such a surprise for me, because I didn't hear, with all of the hype and of Bugonia and whatever, I really don't recall, learning about from any media outlets and so on, that this was actually a remake. That was totally surprising. And then I took a look at the IMDb, like the basic information in IMDb involving this film. The cover is like terrible, so don't be turned off by it, and that's why I kind of like postponed. But while I was doing the review in Bugonia, I kind of like promised that I would watch the original one, and I did, and I must say I actually don't regret it at all, and it's an amazing film. But I'm going to get into those details. So anyway, this film, as I mentioned initially, it seems that it was inspired by Misery from Stephen King, and also a theory involving Leonardo DiCaprio, like being an alien or whatever. By this time, you probably know the backstory, so this is not a spoiler. You know the backstory from Bugonia. So it basically follows the same structure. I would say like the main structure, it really follows along, but it has a lot of surprises in between. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that if you watched Bugonia, this is going to surprise you still, even though like the main like the main plot, right? If you don't worry about like not being surprised and so on, this is gonna surprise you a bunch of times. It's a very, very cool movie. So I was also like researching not exactly why this wasn't like such a hit or whatever. Again, this was made like in 2003. I think it has like a very modern language, visual language, that I mean aesthetics and so on. It has a peculiar aesthetics actually, but I'm going to also talk about that in a bit. But anyway, this film was released in 2003, and it seems that it was also kind of like a period where the South Korean cinema really flourished. So I'm going to mention 3 movies. One of them I actually know about. I didn't watch fully, but I am going to watch it fully. But I'm going to watch all 3 of them. So Memories of Murder, all of them highly rated. Memories of Murder, Old Boy, and A Tale of Two Sisters. So they're all highly rated, and this one actually, Save the Green Planet, in IMDb has a 7.1 as a rating. So I was kind of like surprised, wow, 7.1, this awful cover and so on. So yeah, finally came the day that I watched it, and it's a spectacular movie, really. So as I mentioned, the language, the aesthetics and so on is really, really ahead of its time. So it has like this this chaos feel to it visually, but that is totally intentional from the level that I noticed, like in the planning of this film and so on. It was for sure an intentional an intentional feel to it, like kind of like to maybe bond with the main character. I cannot like say fully what's it about, because then it would be a spoiler. But anyway, it does have this bond, with his condition and so on. That's the the maximum that I can tell about it. But anyway, so this film also shows a side of Korea, that we're not accustomed to see in the movies. That I found that really really amazing. Like to watch. Like some of the countryside and some other. I would say like smaller parts of it, which is it would probably be basically like the most part of Korea, right? So the big metropolis, normally they're not they don't represent like the fully what that country is about. I mean, any country that I'm talking about, but yeah, it had but strangely enough, it shows, like actually two sides, right? The side of Korea that we already are accustomed to, like in the film productions and so on, and also this other side. But surprisingly, there was also kind of like a mix of Western references to it throughout the film, but then it would be like more on the cultural side. I mean, on the I would say on the film industry side, right? There are very, very strong, actually, Western references. I thought that mix was really, was really unseen. I would say, at least, to be honest. Another detail that I should mention is that Bugonia, right? So it's a great story, great film overall, and so on. I think maybe a couple of Oscars and so on. It's a great film. I can honestly say that I like this one best, for sure. Not only because I respect like the original art, the original story, the original script, and so on. But I think even like the editing and the elements within and so on, it felt like more authentic. It felt darker. It also felt that there's one curious aspect about this film is that it kind of like takes you through like a roller coaster, of themes, of film themes, of film genres, So it's comedy, but it's also action, but it's also deep drama. Actually deeper. In the drama part, it's actually deeper than Bugonia. And also mystery, so it's a very, very fun movie. Very, very fun movie. I had genuine laughs in at least 3 or 4 parts. One part I even applauded, because it was so surprising what happened. I'm going to tell in the spoilers part what happened there, that it really surprised me. But yeah, I had very, very much fun with this film. Superb acting. So the two main characters, right? So yeah, I would say that they I would say that even the 4 main characters had a very good chemistry, but the 2 main characters, the way that they portrayed, their characterization and so on, it was really breathtaking. This is a for me one of the best films that I watched this year, and I watched already The Odyssey. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Anyway, amazing camera work also. As I said, it's a modern, like it felt really modern, this film. Yeah, but I mean, we gotta respect Korean, the Korean film industry, right? We had already so many productions. It's not like a one-time thing. So they have been investing for a long time in the film industry and so on. They have I don't know about the details, but they have like a peculiar, mix of government incentives, but with conditions and so on. If anyone knows more about this, please explain in the chat in the chat here. So yeah, The film also has like a very good rhythm, so it's almost 2 hours of film, right? But it has a very good rhythm that gets you keeps you engaged. It's I mean, I have nothing, like nothing, basically nothing negative to say about this film. So to whom I would recommend this to, I would say that if you actually, this is very very important. If you didn't watch Bugonia and you're interested in watching it, please watch this film first. Watch this film first. This is for sure you're not gonna regret it. Watch this film first. If you have watched Bugonia, it's still worth it. You're still gonna get like a few surprises, which I'm going to tell a few of them in the spoiler section. So if you're into Korean films in general, weird ones, like Parasite and so on, this is I think it's like the same style and so on. This is a very very good pick, and yeah, I would say that this would be my main recommendations for sure. Now let's get into the spoilers, which is also fun, but I know that people are gonna drop off. As I mentioned, the plot is kind of like maintains, like the same structure from Bugonia. However, there are a couple of scenes there that I really don't remember in Bugonia, and for sure this is like basically exclusive from this film. And one of the parts that really surprised me is like towards to the end and so on. So they were kind of like battling, in his company, which is a different kind of company at this point, right? So in Bugonia, it was like a high class, something, but in this case, it was like something related to industry or whatever. So they were like in this room and like fighting and whatever, and then the main character actually dies there. But it doesn't end there. So something happens there, which is really, really funny. This is a spoiler part, but I'm not going to spoil this part specifically. But something happens there that kind of like reverts his death. You gotta watch this film to understand what I'm talking about, and also to be surprised. This was the most surprising part of the film, anyway. But also there were like actually some heavy criticism, like culturally, right, and within the film, especially related to injustice, So what do I mean by that? So at this point, if you're watching the spoiler section, you already know that the main character, as in Bugonia, they're portrayed as if they have like a mental problem and so on, right? Because of something that happened, in their earlier in their life, which is explained in both films and so on. I think this one takes a deeper level to it. It's really like when you watch those things and so on, really moves you much more than Bugonia did. Bugonia did a great job with that. Mixing in that dramatic part and so on, but I think this one took to another level. Anyway, it also so as I was saying, it's kind of like a criticism about injustice and so on. So what do I mean by that is like maybe a powerful person, that does something wrong, and he has all the the means to control everything, government wise or politically wise or financially wise or so on. So then comes a person that has suffered something because of that, and then he wants to fight back, but he can't because he doesn't have the means. He's not in the same level, So then people don't take it seriously, right? So we actually see a lot of that happening, throughout the world, actually, so many injustices, happening and so on, and we really feel powerless, and then we kind of like see, like this character trying to, to take revenge for it, and then it's portrayed actually as a person that has some kind of mental problem and so on, which is normally what these big, I would say, systems, mechanisms try to do when someone with no expression tries to battle, like a bigger player and so on. So that deep criticism, I thought it was kind of like amazingly rolled out in this film. I felt that this film, like went deeper into that aspect as did Bugonia. Bugonia was kind of like maybe a bit more to the comedy side, to the freaky side, to the like to the weirdness and so on. This one, I think, it kind of like managed to stick together, all of these elements, all of these, the criticism part, the comedic part, the dramatic part, the personal, like drama that was happening there. Man, I was so satisfied with this film, really. And after this one, for sure, I mean, I had already experience, with Korean productions and so on, especially now that, we have like soap operas, right, being very popular. I didn't watch any of them, but I'm going to get deeper into the Korean film industry. It's really something that we should pay more attention to. I know that they do stand out, here and there, indicated, like for international, films, a lot of international actually awards and so on. But I think we as like just day by day, like film fanatics, I think we should pay more attention into their productions. It's really something that we can learn a lot with. And so that's it for this episode. I hope I see you in the next one. Probably releasing one more next week, maybe. Let's see how the weekend goes. And see you later.